welcome to the podcast, Living Uncertain. This podcast is dedicated to obsessive compulsive disorder, OCD, and the primary treatment, exposure response prevention, ERP. OCD comes in many forms, such as contamination, perfectionism, checking, harm, superstitious, religious or moral, sexual orientation, and/or relationship. ERP is the gold standard to treating OCD, and it focuses on deliberately confronting fears, the exposure, while refraining from compulsive rituals, the response prevention. With repeated exposures and without engaging in compulsions, we learn to tolerate anxiety and break the cycle of intrusive thoughts. We are a married couple that have faced both the challenges of OCD and the incredible healing that ERP can provide to your marriage, family, and your home. As a person who lives with OCD, I am much more than this diagnosis. We all can be. Hey y'all, it's Stacey, and along with my husband Marc, we want to thank you for living uncertain with us. Welcome to episode 24, and as you all know by now, this is the podcast that discusses everything OCD and ERP related. We're here today, on today's episode, to talk about a few different things that have been going on in our life over the last week that perhaps OCD has been a part of. I think it's important tonight to talk more about certain compulsions and what ERP can look like when you're trying to reverse that cycle or interrupt that cycle. So, welcome.
So, this past week has been kind of a up and down week for us. So, Stacey is a contractor, and as a contractor, sometimes you have jobs or you don't have jobs.
Yes, and to be clear, I'm a contracted therapist, not an actual contractor.
Yeah, contracted therapist.
Yes.
So last school year, you had a job in a school that then they hired somebody, so you weren't rehired as a contractor in that school.
Yes.
And then you were kind of in limbo, which for somebody that has OCD, limbo is
not pleasant.
No. Or somebody that, has to be a part of that person's life sometimes.
Or
is
someone,
not pleasant.
Oh, it's not pleasant for you either.
No.
Oh, I'm so sorry for that.
No.
My bad.
But I did tell you we're going to be fine.
Yes.
It's, unfortunately, that's part of that reassurance that, it's hard. Do you reassure? Do we have a conversation? Do you do ERP? It's not one of those things where, is ERP like, do you do it in that moment? Because, if you're out in public, is it a time and place for ERP? But when you're in your own house.
And I think that's a really good point to bring up. And it's something that we've touched on in other episodes, which is when is it ERP appropriate or when is it just a conversation to be had? When is it ERP appropriate? When is it not? Or when is it just a conversation? And when is it someone with OCD like myself seeking reassurance and checking in? And I think that's one of the bigger ones too that we've had to tackle, especially as you and I are both getting stronger with what we know about OCD and how we counteract and try to interrupt the cycle of compulsions, which is knowing when it's just a conversation and when I'm seeking reassurance. And that gets so frustrating, especially to me, because there are times, and perhaps this week we hit that, where I see it one way and you see it differently. And that becomes a moment where we have to kind of just take a step back and remember what we've done in the past, remember what our training is, remember all that education, and then kind of figure it out together, which we are much, much better at doing now.
But it is still very difficult. So back to I didn't have a job. You then, your contracting company found you a position.
Yes.
In a different district.
Yes.
And you were supposed to start
yesterday.
Yeah. And per the request of that school district.
Right.
Which they didn't.
Which, as it happens in the beginning and the rollout of every school year in districts, big or small, things happen, things come up, and it's not always a succinct start here, do this, have this, now you go here.
Which, and I want to also layer add a layer to this complexity of the contracting. You're not in person. You're doing this virtually.
Correct.
The school district that you are contracted in is over 200 miles away from us.
Correct.
So you can't necessarily walk into the school or into the district office and be onboarded.
Right.
Everything is being done virtually.
It's a little different situation.
And some of it's being done through your contracting company. You know, some of it's direct. You know, and if it doesn't go, for me, what I've noticed, if it doesn't go smooth or there's glitches to the day, then I have recognized, or I've noticed that then some OCD tendencies come out.
Ew.
And, you know, you and I had conversations yesterday.
We sure did. And I saw it much differently tonight.
Yes. And it was not her OCD is how she saw it. And she wanted to say, well, I know you're going to say this is my OCD. And what was the other thing?
Well, there was a little bit of a midlife crisis thrown
in
there too.
Midlife crisis thrown in there. Yes. So it was OCD and midlife crisis, you know.
Just the combination that any woman wants to hear from the love of her life, by the way.
Yeah. Because she was like wanting to just basically quit the job and, you know, or not quit the job, but I'm not going to have a job because, you know, they didn't get their act together. Then, you know, that's what I was seeing. That's what I was feeling, even from being at work.
No. See, I didn't see it that way. I just saw the nervousness of I had everything planned out and organized the way that I thought it was going to go. And then it didn't go that way. And I started looping a little in my head, which doesn't sound at all like OCD, does it?
Well, but here's the thing. And
no, that was sarcastic. That's absolutely OCD.
I understand that, but I didn't know you were looping in your head.
Well,
you never told me that.
I like to keep those little nuggets secret now sometimes.
So here she is looping in her head where I'm having, you know, I'm telling her, well, this may be a little bit of midlife crisis / OCD, and which then, you know, makes her a little bit more angry.
So actually, I think this, I mean, we got through it pretty quickly though. So there's that.
Well, all of our arguments usually are pretty quick.
For 20 years, they've been that way.
Yeah. 22, everybody, by the way.
Yeah. Who's counting?
Yeah.
So yes, it was my OCD. And here's a good segue.
Hold on here. So we're going to add another layer into this.
Oh my gosh, this is like a 7-layer dip or what? Like what are you doing?
Look at you going bean dip there. You know, 7-layer bean dip with ERP and midlife crisis. Well, then we're going to add our daughter into the mix.
Okay.
Because she sprung
she sprung a little extra surprise on us, which is that we've been planning for her to go to a certain charter high school for months and months and months. And then last night she decided, I think I want a more traditional high school experience and I want to go somewhere different.
Where her brother went.
And so here we are.
So in the United States or in Arizona, you know, if you don't live in the boundary of that school, you have to do what we call open enrollment.
Yes.
Which the school that her brother went to is not part of our attendance boundary for where we lived.
Yes.
So, you know, here I am working in the same school district.
Mm-hmm.
And in my mind, I know the processes. I know what happens. I know all that stuff. So here I am texting the people that could make it happen to get her in.
Right.
And according to you, I was on my phone all night long.
Well, because I wanted to discuss it more, because that's what I like to do, because here I am in my head again, and with more layers of things to be in my head about. Now, I think this is a good time in this episode to segue into another piece that I wanted to talk about, which is one of the things that I have done for so many years, and one of the things that I've been able to hide and kind of squirrel away on my own.
Ooh, this will be fun to hear this. Something new, everybody.
Oh no. Well,
for
not
you
new
and
and
myself.
Not for you necessarily or for the listeners now, but I'm saying is my mental compulsions, right? That's what
Yeah.
I kept hidden for so many years. That's why I didn't even know that I had OCD. And so I would take to doing these mental compulsions and having a very ritualized conversation with myself if things didn't feel in control and very certain. And I wasn't in the process of living uncertain yet. And so I would do these mental compulsions.
So what was yesterday's?
And so it's what it always is, that if something is out of my control, it's okay. You're okay. It'll be all right. Because you know what? Even if it doesn't work out, this and this and this, or even if it doesn't go this way, we'll do this and this and this. Like, it's always, I have to get to a point where then I can hold on to something in my head at the end, which is like, I have figured it out and I know what's going to happen. Thank you. Yes. In a sense, it's pretty much exactly what it is. Or I'll say, you know, I just have this very ritualized way, because I've just done it for so many years, that no matter what the situation is that comes up, that is out of my control, that is a potential surprise, that might be somewhat uncomfortable or unsettling,
That doesn't feel just right.
I do this very ritualized looping thought process, which I now know a lot of it becomes known as these mental compulsions, right? And so in this whole process of therapy and in this whole process of being introduced to ERP, one of the things that I've learned how to do is interrupt that need for the mental compulsion, which is something, again, that I've had to hold myself accountable for, because it's not necessarily something that everyone else can see. And so I thought it was a good time to kind of talk about what that looks like when I do, I suppose, when I do exposures, ERP, to myself, when I think or can see myself going down that road of having that mental loop.
So let me ask you this. So yesterday,
Yeah,
it was, your day wasn't going right with the new school.
Mm-hmm.
Avery dropped that truth bomb on us.
Mm-hmm.
Were you in the space? Did you have the mental capacity, the mental brain power to stop those compulsions?
Yes. And I will say that I got more caught in the mental compulsions, the fact that I hadn't heard about my job. I had Avery and her switching high schools into a different kind of compartment. And I was like, I think we can deal with that one. And I had you, because you were going to deal with the brunt of it, because you, like you mentioned, work in the district, etc. So I felt pretty okay about that one. It was the not having the solidified job, or that I felt like it was the solidified job in my head. And that's where I let myself, well, what happens if I don't do this? Well, what happens if this happens? Well, what if this? What if that? And I could feel myself going into that. And then to combat those obsessions or those intrusive thoughts, I start my ritualized compulsion, which is, no, you're okay. It'll be okay. It's fine. It's fine. Sometimes they're in my head. Sometimes I'm literally speaking out loud to myself.
And I've heard that before.
I'm aware. That's not my finest hour, but yes. And so, yes, when I feel myself doing that now, and it was even last night, I was able to do it to a certain extent. What I do now is I kind of say to myself the opposite of what I'm used to telling myself. So if it's, this isn't going to work out, and you know what? It's going to be okay. I'm going to be okay, because I know that this is going to work out and it's going to be okay and I'll be all right. Instead of doing that, because I don't actually know, I have to actually say that. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe it doesn't work out. Maybe she does hate me. Maybe it doesn't happen the way that I think. Maybe it will.
Yesterday, did your anxiety ever go up?
Not as bad as I've had before in the past.
So I think you probably have gotten better not having your anxiety go up, more of jumping straight into the mental compulsions.
And my brain still, I feel, I'm so much clearer, and I'm less foggy than I ever have been before. And so even if I start to get into a moment where I'm feeling uneasy or uncomfortable, I look at it or feel differently about it. I don't know if that makes sense. And maybe to someone out there listening who has OCD and who's going through something similar that I do, maybe to them it will make sense, and I hope it does. Because now that I've been through the ERP process, now that I've had so much success with all of that, I don't feel as though the anxiety just spikes. It takes a lot more now to get my anxiety to spike than it ever did before. Like before, it would be one little moment and all of a sudden I was at a 0 to 60. Now we'd have to stack several pretty intense moments onto one another in order to get my anxiety back up that high.
Yeah. So when you as your day went on,
Yeah.
and your contact at your contracting agency, it was like, touch base with me a couple times a day. I think I got home by the time your last check-in with her was supposed to happen.
Yeah.
And I could tell that you were kind of on edge. So I will just tell you, I could feel that it was OCD that was happening. And you didn't necessarily want to agree with that.
No, I did not.
Did you deep down kind of feel like maybe it was?
I always deep down feel that way. But in the moment, no, I didn't want to agree with you.
Yeah.
It just didn't feel just right.
So then...
Did you see what I did there?
Yeah. So then we finish our night out.
Yes.
And you wake up the next morning
Yep.
and you're still feeling uncertain.
Yeah.
And I mean, and I know that because you and I were not arguing or anything, but you know, we were kind of talking a little bit about, you know, was this OCD or was it not? And and you weren't happy with that conversation.
No, it was not.
So then what happened today that got you to that point that you were like, oh, okay, it's all good?
Well, because it worked out. Right? Like,
so they contacted you and gave you everything that you need to do in order to do the job.
So I could have just gone without the mental compulsions and ritualized, or the intrusive thoughts and the mental compulsions the night before, and just realized that it's okay if you live uncertain. Obviously, that's the whole point of this podcast. And I have to still consistently remind myself of that I could have gone without doing all of that and it still would have, it worked out, or it wouldn't have. And neither one was going to end the earth.
No, but I will tell you this. One of the comments you made to me a little while ago, if it didn't work out and we're living on my paycheck, you don't feel like the money I make is necessarily your money.
Oh, now we're getting, okay, here we go. Now, this is getting into another podcast that we'll get to down the road. Completely different than the one dealing with OCD. But yeah, I mean, we've been married for 22 years. We've both worked full time.
Yeah.
Since we were married, and I've been a full-time working mom for all these years.
And to be honest,
I've always financially contributed to the family.
You've been the moneymaker.
For many years I was. I no longer am.
It wasn't,
and I'm content
recently.
With that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a very, you know, we're from a different age and stage in life too, and a different generation. And so things just look differently for us, I suppose, as we're getting into our middle age here soon enough. And so, yeah, there was a thought that was, well, what if I can't contribute financially to the family? Then what? Well, then maybe the earth will end somehow, and it won't. But in the moment, I'm not thinking about it like that.
Yeah. But even then, like tonight when we were sitting down having dinner, you know, we talked a little bit about yesterday if it was OCD, and I think you have a clearer mind.
Okay, I'm just going to say it on the record for you, for the listeners, for anyone who needs to hear this. Generally speaking, it's always going to be my OCD. Always.
But I think because you feel like you've come so far that you don't want it to be.
Once I see this, no, I do not want it to be, because that's fearful for me to go backwards, even though it's not necessarily going backwards because I'm handling it differently than I did before. And there is such a thing as grace.
Yeah.
To how far I have come and what I have done. And sometimes, yeah, it gets me a little bit. The OCD, I mean. Like, it'll sneak up on me again. And I'll be like, dang it, where did that come from? And so, yes, again, for the record, if ever you tell me this is probably your OCD, just be prepared that the first thing I'm going to want to say is not everything is my OCD, but I'm putting it on the record that
most likely it is.
Yeah. There's a 99.9% chance. Sure.
Yeah. And for me, it's hard because sometimes it's so
Always so
small
hard for you.
It is hard because it's small. It's not something that you can necessarily, for somebody that didn't live with you day in and day out like I do, they wouldn't pick up on that it was OCD.
No.
And that's the hard part.
And
it's
honestly,
I picked up on that it was probably OCD, but then I've got to tread lightly on how I
did get frustrated with you saying that to me yesterday, but I knew deep down it was. And as we've talked about so many times before too, the amount of just immense trust and love that I have for you that has only gotten stronger over the years is as such that I can't be too upset for long, because you're not coming at it from a place of hurt or what do I want to say? You're not trying to hurt me.
No.
Is what I want to say.
No, it's a help.
It's not that.
But I will say, because when you weren't necessarily buying in that it might have been your OCD, I have to tread lightly on doing quasi ERP with you. Like you would ask me questions and I wouldn't necessarily respond to them. I know I wasn't responding to them, but I had to do it in a gentle way versus I'm not sure. when we know that you're truly jumping into your OCD land, I can do the I'm not sure. When it's quasi conversational / OCD, I've got to be definitely a lot more delicate
and creative, it sounds like,
and creative on how I respond to some of your questions or our conversations. And that is very hard to do sometimes.
I can imagine. And again,
But I will say, like, today we had a very good conversation about it.
Yes. And I think that's the tricky part, because we are married. We are raising 2 teenage children. We are doing life together. And so when do we have just a conversation versus what is me checking in or trying to get reassurance, and being able to know the difference is sometimes very challenging. And I think that's still a sticky part.
It's definitely very difficult for us, but I do know one thing that you and I have started doing, I've noticed at least, is we swing back around to that conversation later, maybe the next day or later in the afternoon, or, it's never a conversation that is a one and done. We kind of go through that quasi ERP sometimes. And then the next day after we've gone through it, I know we circle back around and have those conversations about what we were trying to have a conversation about,
true.
Which was not an effective conversation. Or sometimes we bring it up like we are now.
Well, yeah, this is raw and authentic and showing that OCD is a constant moving piece of any person's life or household, and there are different challenges that come up week by week.
So for me, sometimes there's some frustrations like there was last night, but I do know that it's OCD related. I do know that we can then circle back around a little bit later when I know the situation that you might be feeling uncomfortable is resolved. Like today was resolved for you because you got everything you needed to do your job
right
moving forward, and you feel comfortable about what's happening. And So now we can have an actual conversation about that. But yesterday afternoon was ERP about what was not happening.
Yes. And I will say that while I most often will ask you for reassurance or check in with you, there was a time in my life when I was doing that with everyone in my life.
Yeah.
And so I will say that there was a point yesterday, even though I got caught in mental compulsions, that I didn't do other compulsions, which would be, generally speaking, in my life, would reach out to other people to ask for reassurance. Do I still have a job? Am I okay? Why didn't, is this okay? Did I do something wrong? I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Like, there are things I would over apologize. I would over explain. I would overcompensate for so much and check in to make sure that people were happy with me or feeling okay about me, or I needed that reassurance that no, everything was going to be okay. And I wasn't just getting it or needing it from you. I was needing it from other people. Now, I will say that, yes, I got anxious, but I sat in the discomfort of that rather than seek reassurance from someone else.
And you didn't go to your contacts at the district and over apologize why they didn't get a form or this or that or whatever the breakdown was of you not starting, like they wanted you
so
to
actually
yesterday.
When we think about it and we break it down, it's a win.
Yeah. 100%. No, I mean, but
No,
this is us sitting down and talking about what you would have done and what you do now.
Right.
I mean, you would have probably sent those people 4 texts.
Yeah.
Apologizing and I'm so sorry,
and checking in and asking for reassurance.
Yeah. And now they didn't do what they need to do, and you're gonna push through, and hopefully tomorrow's a different day.
Yeah.
But you try to do the check-ins and the reassurances with me. So
Yes.
I mean, that's how far you really have come.
So now you being the person I depended most on that for, we're also doing the work to try to create some new norms in that area too.
But even the last school district you were with last year, your caseload was like up to 90 kids because you kept saying yes and yes and yes and yes. And part of that was because of being a business owner, you wanted people to be supportive and, willing to do and go the extra mile to help move things forward and stuff. But that was a little too far.
My people pleasing generally goes too far.
Yeah. And you recognize that now. So, and you're like, no, I'm not going to stumble in my past oopses for the one coming up, school year coming up, to where you won't be taking on 90 kids when, it's not feasible.
Yeah, no, I understand. No, you're right.
You don't have enough time in the day to do all the paperwork that you have to do. And I mean, I can see you were stressed at the end of the school year because of that reason. Trying to get, all the services in and meetings and paperwork. And, when you kept saying, I'm adding another 4 kids and they're 5 kids, I'm like, that's a lot of paperwork. I know that because I used to do the paperwork.
And it was a lot. But I'm on a good trajectory now. And our daughter, Avery, will be on a good trajectory. And hopefully we'll have her back soon to do another episode with us to talk about, her continuing journey on ERP. And
because she's about ready to step into a really big ERP piece.
Yes, she is.
She's going from a school that has that she was anticipating, going from a school online where there was about 20 of her classmates online virtually checking in 2-3 times a week type of thing, to potentially thinking about going in person at a high school with 400 kids, now walking onto a campus with 1,800, 1,900 kids.
So yeah, that's ERP with a capital ERP.
Yeah. But she has told us that she feels more confident because of the ERP and the medication, and that she feels more ready than she ever has felt.
Absolutely.
and we just got to let her try.
100%.
Because if she, falls and needs support, we're going to be there to help her. We already have a kind of a couple of contingency plans in place if that happens.
Yes.
But, we're hoping it doesn't, and she can.
We have contingency plans for our son too, by the way, everyone, who begins his freshman year at Arizona State coming up. So
living in the dorms. But he has assured us that he can keep his space clean because he'll have a roommate, but he's got 3 roommates right now in his current living situation. And I haven't necessarily seen that.
I think he would like to say it's different when it's his parents and his sister versus a roommate. But we'll see. We'll see how he does. We've got some contingencies for him too if things don't work out, and if he falls, we'll be there to support him too. Just as we will our daughter. 100%.
Being parents is difficult.
That's what we do.
We'll show up every day.
Yes. But anyway, we digress because this is Living Uncertain and we're here to talk about OCD and ERP. But yeah.
Well, but they make us practice the
They do.
The
ERP they do.
Too,
no, it's been huge. And hugely beneficial for them too, as they are teenagers now and growing up. So it's been good for our whole family.
So we want to thank everybody for listening today.
Always.
If you follow us on Facebook or want to share a story on there, anonymously, please do so about successes that you've had. If you don't want to come on to the podcast, if you want to come on the podcast, please reach out to us. We'd love to have people on, no matter where you're at. We can do it, through video. And
we'd love to share your story, continue building this community.
Because it is definitely a community that is not recognized, and it's misunderstood.
Yes. And on Instagram, we are livinguncertain_OCD.
So thank you for listening tonight.
And for living uncertain with us every day. Thank y'all. Thank you for joining us on today's episode and living uncertain with us. We are not therapists, and this podcast is intended to provide information and support. It should not replace traditional means of seeking help from a licensed mental health professional. If you like this episode or would like to hear more, please like, subscribe, or share with someone you think may benefit. Here at Living Uncertain, we're building a community of support. If you and your significant other would like to share your story, we would love to have you on the podcast. Please click on the link in the episode description and fill out the interest form.